This week, two completely different groups of people taught me exactly the same lesson about life. One group consisted of buddies living with physical or intellectual challenges, simply wanting the opportunity to become stronger. The other was a friend I haven't met for around 35 years. On the surface, these two encounters had absolutely nothing in common. Yet, by the end of the week, both left me with exactly the same realization. As we grow older, life isn't really about status. It isn't about titles. It isn't even about how much we own. It's about the people we journey with, the lives we touch, and what truly matters in the second half of life. Hi everyone, I'm JY, and welcome to the second half Playbook. If you are in your 50s and beyond, or preparing for this stage of life, this channel is about helping us navigate the second half of life with more purpose, better health, wiser decisions, greater financial confidence, and hopefully fewer regrets. Today, I'd like to share two experiences from my week that unexpectedly came together to teach me one unforgettable lesson. Last Tuesday, I began volunteering with the NCSF Uplift program. It was my first session. I wasn't there as a fitness expert. I wasn't there as a coach. I simply showed up as a volunteer, learning from a senior trainer and supporting the participants. At NCSF Uplift, we affectionately call them buddies. They are not patients. They are not clients. They are our fellow community members. Each buddy has different abilities and different challenges. Some live with Down syndrome. Some have autism. Some have physical disabilities. Some have visual or hearing impairments. Others may be living with ADHD or other conditions. Yet every one of them shares something we all have: a desire to become stronger, healthier, more independent, and more confident. The program itself is something I deeply admire. It's a volunteer-led, non-profit initiative that provides personalized strength training for people with special needs while creating a more inclusive fitness community. Volunteers don't need to be professional trainers. They are guided by experienced mentors, and qualities like patience, compassion, and consistency are just as important as fitness knowledge. Each session lasted about 55 minutes. I stayed for 2 consecutive sessions, nearly 2 hours in total. Physically, yes, it was only a little bit tiring, but emotionally, it was incredibly rewarding. Watching the buddies complete exercises, celebrate small victories, encourage one another, smile after finishing a set. It reminded me that progress isn't about lifting the heaviest weight. It's about overcoming yesterday's limitations. One repetition at a time, one session at a time. What struck me most wasn't their limitations. It was their determination. Sometimes we complain when the gym is crowded. Sometimes we complain when we are tired after work. Yet these buddies arrive with challenges and most of us will never fully understand. And they still showed up. That takes courage. While helping them, I realized something unexpected. I was learning too. As many of you know, I'm also working on improving my own health through resistance training and load-bearing exercises to maintain my muscle mass and build bone health as I grow older. So volunteering becomes a two-way journey. I learn better exercise techniques, better communication, better coaching skills, and perhaps most importantly, I learn patience, empathy, humility, and gratitude. That's another beautiful aspect that people don't always see. For many caregivers, parents and family members who devote countless hours every day, these sessions also provide a precious opportunity to rest, recharge, or simply catch their breath. Sometimes, giving back doesn't always mean writing a check. Sometimes, it simply means showing up. Giving your time, your attention, your encouragement. For me, this is one small way of giving back to a society that has given me so much throughout my life. Little did I know, just a few days later, life would reinforce that same lesson in a completely different way. A few days later, life gave me another unexpected gift. I met up with a friend whom I first knew during national service. When we did the math, it had been around 35 years since we last met in person. 35 years. Entire careers, families, ups and downs, successes, failures, health scares, life happened. Yet somehow, we stay loosely connected. An occasional WhatsApp message, still connected on Facebook. Then one day, he happened to come across my videos from the second half playbook. He sent me a message, and we decided it was finally time to meet. The funny thing, the moment we saw each other, we recognized each other immediately. Of course, we've both grown older, perhaps a little wiser, perhaps with a few more wrinkles. But underneath it all, we are still the same person. We sat down over a simple lunch. And before long, it felt as though those 35 years had simply disappeared. Here's something interesting. Before meeting him, I honestly had no idea what he was doing professionally. It never crossed my mind to ask before we met. We were simply two old friends catching up after decades apart. Only during our conversation did I ask him what he was doing these days. And that's when I discovered he had built an impressive career and he had become the top executive in his company. I was genuinely surprised. Not because of the title itself, but because he never mentioned it. He carried himself with the same warmth and humility I remembered all those years ago. Knowing the responsibilities that comes with a role like that, I felt even more appreciative that he had taken time out of his busy schedule for us to reconnect. Titles may change, careers may flourish, but genuine friendships have a remarkable way of continuing exactly where they left off. We talked for hours about old friends, our secondary school, junior college, national service, health, exercise, investments, learning, personal growth, the future, and where we think society is heading. One thing really stood out. Although we had lived completely different lives over the past 3 decades, our thinking had quietly converged. What impressed me most wasn't his position. It was what we chose to spend our lunch talking about. Not business, not promotions, not achievements. Instead, our conversation naturally returned to 3 simple words: wealth, wisdom, wellness. Wealth, not just building more money, but creating enough financial freedom that money becomes a tool, rather than a constant source of worry. Wisdom, continuing to learn, remaining curious, being open-minded, passing our experiences to the next generation and the people around us. My friend still has young children. Listening to him speak about raising them to become kind, responsible, and independent people reminded me that our greatest legacy isn't what we own, it's the values we leave behind. We also talk about encouraging people, young or old, to embrace creativity, entrepreneurship, and opportunities beyond conventional paths. Helping people discover their own strengths instead of following someone else's definition of success. And finally, wellness. Perhaps the one area many of us neglected when we were younger. Now we know better. Health isn't something we can postpone. It's something we invest in every day, every single day. Through exercise, better nutrition, adequate sleep, stress management, and healthier lifestyle choices. Because without our health, everything else becomes much harder to enjoy. Looking back, it amazes me that these two experiences happened in the same week. One reminded me that every person deserves dignity, encouragement, and the opportunity to become stronger. The other reminded me that titles and achievements never define the quality of a friendship. One encounter taught me about service. The other taught me about perspective. Different people, different journeys, the same lesson. Life becomes richer, not when we collect more, but when we connect more. With our health, with our community, with lifelong friends, with family, and with ourselves. Perhaps that's what the second half of life is really about. Not chasing more, but appreciating more. Not comparing ourselves with others, but contributing in whatever way we can. Not proving our worth, but living our values. This week reminded me that whether someone is living with significant challenges or leading an organization at the highest level, every one of us is looking for the same thing: purpose, connection, respect, health, and people who genuinely care. If this video resonates with you, I would genuinely love to hear your story. Have you ever connected with an old friend after many years? Or discovered unexpected meaning through volunteering? Please share it in the comments below. I would love to read every one of them. If you enjoyed today's episode, please give this video a like and subscribe to the Second Half Playbook and share it with someone who might need this reminder today. Until next time, take care of your wealth, keep growing your wisdom, protect your wellness, and let's continue writing an even better second half together. I'm JY. Thank you for spending this time with me. Take care, and I'll see you in the next episode.